Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Magnus, and today we're going to install some Vsx Cluster. We will install this in VMware, so there are some limitations compared to like a real production environment. For example, we are unable to do like bond interfaces. We're not able to use VLAN, so we will use physical interfaces, or in this case, virtual interfaces. But we are able to do a lot of testing anyway in this environment. I mean, we can do upgrades. We can change from HA to VSLS. We can change priority. We can move VSs back and forward between members. We can do upgrades with jumbo, with major. We can configure CDT. We can do VPNs, etc., etc. So I mean, there is a lot of things that you can do without physical hardware. If you would install VSX in a real environment, you would use physical hardware. Either you would use an appliance, or you would use an open server, or even Maestro with appliances, or a scalable platform like a chassis. So Vsx is not made to be run on, well, VMware or a cloud environment or so on. So this is made to be run on physical boxes. But as a checkpoint and it's software, of course you can lab with it in VMware, for example, or KVM or any supported hypervisor. So this is really nice to be able to test some things out. So this is our current topology that we're going for. So you see here that we have our MDS, and we have our CLM, and we have our CMAs, meaning our domains where we will actually put the virtual firewalls. We also have the old cluster from the CCSA course, and this old cluster is managed by the normal management station running R81. So the plan here is to install the Vsx cluster, to generate some VSS, and then build a VPN connection between the normal cluster and the VS to see if we can have some connectivity between them. So in this case, we will install the Vsx cluster with a star on, and then we will do two virtual systems connecting to a virtual switch. And as you see here, we have quite a lot of interfaces. So we actually need to have 5 interfaces. We have the VS0, we have the sync, we have our internet connection, and we have our 2 customers that will have 1 VS each. So before we install the Vsx cluster, we actually need to check what is the requirements for Vsx. And within our 8030 release notes, you can see here under open servers and minimum requirements that the Vsx requires 2 cores and 4 gigs RAM. In a real production environment, not really, you need to have a lot more. Of course, it's based on licenses, but I would never run a Vsx on 2 cores and 4 gigs of RAM. If I say like this, our own open servers that we run Vsx on, they are 8 cores and we have 192 gigs of RAM. Maybe that's overkill, but Checkpoint have had a lot of memory leaks, and I think memory is quite cheap, so that's why we put a lot of memory in our open servers. But I wouldn't recommend anyone to run Vsx with less than, let's say, 64 gigs of RAM. So within this lab environment, it's quite good that the requirements is very low, and we will not really take any performance on it, but I'm planning to put maybe like 6 gigs of RAM and 4 cores. I mean, currently we're using like 37 gigs of RAM, and I only have 12 cores in total, and we already over allocated them quite a bit. When it comes to the image itself, it's same as normal gateways, so it's the same image for normal gateways and for Vsx as well. So I think that we still have the images lying around on the machine. So let's try to start the virtual machine for this. And we can just take settings from this current gateway. So we have 4 gigs of memory and 4 CPUs and 250 gigs, and that should be fine. So let's do a new virtual machine, and next, and let's do the R8030, and we take the 3.10 kernel. So we have some new commands and so on. Next, Linux 64-bit, and this will be called V601. And I will just change this directory to something else. So we have it here, and then we do 4 cores, and we do, so we just put 6144, that should be 6 gig. No networks, we will do them manually, and create a new virtual disk, and we do it for 200 gigs. That should be sufficient. And customize hardware, And let's add some interfaces. So we do a network adapter. And this one will be for VS0, the ones that we will actually connect to the box itself. And because it's quite hard to actually add all the interfaces to one and figure out like which one is the management part. So I think I will only put one, and then I will shut them down and I will add more interfaces that the box will find after the installation. Or you can take them not connected, then you will find it anyway. Yeah, maybe we should do like that. So we add all the interfaces, but we leave only one of them connected. So the network adapter, and if I check my list, and we have the list here, so we should have VS0 on VMnet2. So let's do the first one for VMnet2. Like this. And we add a few more, network adapter. This for the sync, that will be VMnet16. And we add one more. And that will be VMnet8. And we add two more for 17 and 18. This should be okay. And we will take off all of this except for VMnet2, so we can find it during the installation. And here we have that one, so close and then finish. And I guess we will be able to start this now, so start the machine. And I will just go through one of these, and then, well, I will fast forward a lot so we can actually just do the nice stuff within the GUI. So you see here, install the guy on the system. And it complained on my AMD CPU, that's to be expected. So just press OK here to proceed with installation, a Swedish keyboard, and then we need to select the disk space, and I will do, maybe I should do 50 gig. Yeah, I will do 50 gigs. In normal, I have 400 gigs on my Vsx clusters, and I normally assign 150 gig for the root position. But this is a lab, and we have quite limited of disk space in this case, so I think this should be okay. 50 gig is quite a lot anyway, more than most appliances. So okay, just put the password. So here we can see that we have all the interfaces, but it's only one of them that has link up, and it's the first one. That's our VS0, and then we will just press OK. And here we will need to put in the IP address band that we have selected. And I did pick this network. And I will use 1, 2, and 3 on the normal cluster. So my Vsx cluster will have 4, 5, and 6. So the member number 1 will have .5. You can do whatever you want. But this is just for my lab. And well, 254 dot, so I will have 4 on the cluster itself, and then I will have 5 on the first member. This will be the first member, and I will have .1 for default gateway, and then press OK, and it will format the drive, so that's okay. So the installation is complete, so we will just reboot it, and then we need to actually access it from the GUI to continue with the installation, just like a normal gateway. And I don't remember if we have this network set up in the old cluster, so let's see. So we have our VMnet, our VMware server here, and we go to the gateway number 1. Just see if this already have the interface I'm expecting it to have. So show configuration. And it should have that one. And it has that on Ethernet 3. So that's good. So hopefully we can reach it from start, because this is part of our old lab for the CCSA course. If you haven't seen it already, you can check it up here. And let's see if our box is started. So it's still running, and this is not good. Maybe it's nothing. You never know with VMware and some issues that you can actually get. I mean, this is not really on the hardware compatibility list with VMware Workstation. So HTTPS, and then we did have 192.168.254.5. So let's see if we can actually reach this. Let's try to log in here and see if this one can reach its own gateway. Ping 192.168.254.1. So it can reach its gateway, so that's good. So we go back here, let's see if it just took a while. Did we put in a default gateway on it? Let's see. Show configuration. And we have .5. And do we have a default gateway? Yeah, we have a default gateway. So let's check in the, here. I was too fast. So let's log in. And this is the first time wizard. It looks the same for normal gateways and for Vsx. So Vsx you actually enable after. So you do like Vsx enabled on or mode on. I don't remember the command. We can check that. So next. And this is correct. So Ethernet 0. And to connect to the internet, we will not pick anything because it will not have that. So this will be Vsx 001 node 1. And we will do a DNS server so we can surf. It's a lot easier. And as I normally say on this one, if you're doing this in real production, use an NTP server, because time is really important when you do, well, anything regarding security. The time needs to match everywhere. So this is a security gateway, and this will be part of the cluster. Yeah, we can have this part of the cluster. It will change anyway when we're running the Vsx. And keep this one on, highly recommended. If you turn this off, it's problematic to do anything on the cluster. So just do next. And we do the SIC, so that will be checkpoint in this case. This is a one-time password, same as a normal gateway, same as everything else. And then next, and finish, and yes. So while this is working, I will fast forward it and I will actually create one more gateway so we can build a cluster. Alright, so the first time wizard has been made on both the gateways. And as you see, it's still a normal security gateway, and that's because we haven't enabled Vsx yet. And just keep in mind, if you're running like R8030 or below R8040, you actually don't have this GUI if you enable Vsx. So the Gaia portal is not made for Vsx when it comes to below R8040. So that means if you want to do some settings like setting up bonds interfaces, maybe fixing radios, TACACs, maybe even upgrade the gateways before you take them into production, it's good to take this step before you actually turn on Vsx feature, because you will not have the GUI. Of course, you can do the same in CLI, and if you have a template, it's no problem. I find the normal like upgrades with HFAs and so on to be done in CPUs in the GUI is quite easy to do it before you actually enable Vsx. I also like to fix all my interfaces before I actually turn on the Vsx function, meaning add like the bond interfaces for the production traffic, for sync, or whatever you want to use bond for. I mean, in real production, I would have one bond for internal traffic, one bond for external traffic, and one bond for sync traffic. On top of that, I have the VS0, where I actually connect to the Vsx cluster itself. And I have one more one more interface that I call Vsx, but we can talk about that later. In this case, I was just thinking that we will update the deployment agent and put the later HFA. We will not put the latest HFA because I want to show you how you actually upgrade a Vsx cluster with new Jumbo as well. But let's prep them from start. So we do the install DA. And we have a new deployment agent here. So we just install that on both gateways. So this is done. So status and action. And then you just press the install DA and put the file and install. After this, we will add the Jumbo hotfix, and we will add like 219. It's actually like 232 as the latest one, so we will still be able to upgrade with with the CDP, and we will also CDT, I mean, checkpoint deployment tool, and we will also be able to upgrade it in the CLI if we want to do that. So let's import the packet with the new Jumbo, and I did just download it. So we have it here, 228. And we will do the same on this one. Import the packet. And we have it here. Import. So we can see that the packet has been successfully imported. So let's do a verifier. So let's take this one and then do verify. And let the verification run before we take the installation. And here we can see that the result was good, so we can install the Jumbo of it. And when you're running 3.10 gateways, of course, make sure to have the Jumbo that is 3.10 as well. In R8040, R81, it's 3.10 by default, but in R8030, there is actually a 2.6 kernel as well. So install. All right, so both boxes has been rebooted, and we have the latest Jumbo hotfix installed on them. And if you're running this in production, I recommend you to fix your interfaces and so on in advance, because it's a lot easier to do it before you enable Vsx. So let's go into the CLI and actually enable Vsx on these boxes. So we have here Vsx01. Hopefully I can reach them. And this one as well. And if you do show configuration, you can of course see all the configuration, and if you have a bond, it will be listed here as well. So if you want to enable Vsx on this one, it's just simple to do set Vsx on and block database override. Set Vsx on. And now it's Vsx on this one. And let's do it for this one as well. Block database override. Database override. Set Vsx on. This means that Vsx is enabled. So if you want to do, for example, VSLS now, you need to go to cp config. And here you have the option to actually turn on per virtual system state number 7. And this is normally something that I recommend, but this is a lab, so I want to do this, well, already after we are in production. So I want to do some in incorrect step. So in real one, I would enable the VSLS because VSLS is a lot better than HA in my opinion, because you can use both of the hardware or multiple boxes at the same time, similar to load sharing, but it's better distribution between the boxes. And with Vsx, this is really powerful to actually use VSLS. So this is something that I would recommend. But in this case, we will not enable it. So we will run HA first. We will create the VS, and then we will actually change to VSLS during full production, so to say. So let's go into our main domain. Because when we have Vsx, we want to create the gateway itself, the Vsx cluster within the main domain, and then we can create virtual systems within each domain for each customer or each department, so to say. But the Vsx cluster you want to have in domain 01, and this is where you normally put your unlimited license. So if you want to create the Vsx cluster here, take new, and we do Vsx, and we will do a cluster. And then we need to pick a cluster name, and it would be Vsx01. And we will need to pick an IPv4 address, and that would be 192.168.254.4. And it's a cluster running on R8030, and we're actually running it in Cluster Excel. Secure platform, that's just strange. But we are running it in Cluster Excel. We don't run it in VSLS. It should say Gaia there because it's no longer secure platform. And here we need to add each member. So that would be Vsx01 node 1. And then you need to pick your IP address, or you need to take the IP address that you have on VS0. So that's 192.168.254.5. And here's the SIC, meaning the one-time password key. So initialize. Let's see if this works. I don't remember if I actually opened the possibility to send SIC key. Because if you remember the topology, so here we have the topology. The management station is going through a different cluster, and this cluster is not managed by the MDS, meaning we don't go on the default policy. So I think that we need to check the traffic from this one to this network and see if it actually enabled. Because it looks like it's not. So let's do like this. Let's open up R81. I don't know if this was a mistake or if this is good for the actual lab, but normally you don't have your MDS behind your VSX. Or I will say like this, my recommendation is not to have the MDS behind your VSX. You should have it behind something else. Because a VSX you're unable to fix without your management station working. So it's not recommended to have your management station behind the Vsx system. You should have behind it a normal cluster. You can of course run it from the normal MDS, but you shouldn't have a Vsx that's facing your management station. So we see here that internal network to internal network is actually only HTTPS. All right, so now we have the trust established. We just needed to add some ports. And now we will add a second one. So that's Vsx01 node 2, 192.168.254.6, and it will be checkpoint, and just initialize. And we have trust established, so we have both our members being able to actually talk to the management station. And then next. And here we need to select like which of these ones should be a VLAN trunk. And in a normal VSX system, of course you would use VLANs and you would use bond interfaces. But in this one, we're only using VMware, so we're actually not able to use VLANs within the virtual environment itself. So we will use the physical interfaces, or the virtual interfaces in this case, to describe specific things. And in this case, we will have no VLAN trunks, so just next. And then we need to select like which interface should be our sync interface. And I will select interface 2. And the reason for this is because that was the one I planned here. So that would be the VMnet 16 for a sync interface. So let's select a network for the sync. Normally I use 169 IP addresses like 169.254.250. I don't know, what will it be? Because we want to use /29. But okay, we can use .1, and then we use 245, 245, 255, 248. 169, 254, 250.2, 245, 245, 245, 248. And this network doesn't need to communicate with anything else. It just needs to communicate between the different boxes. So let's do next. And we don't want to create any virtual switches at this time. This is something that we do after. And this is just the normal default policy that will be placed on the Vsx cluster itself. And in this case, I will just put any. You will get a warning that it's not good to use any. And then finish. And when it comes to the Vsx cluster itself, keep in mind, we are accessing to VS0. So the VS0 is this specific interface. If you check this drawing, you see that the virtual system 1 and virtual system 2 has no access to VMnet2 or VS0. So if you want to access something on like this network or this network, we actually need to build some sort of interfaces that connect to our part. In this case, we will have no such connection because we will build a VPN tunnel between the VS and this cluster. But we have no direct connection, even if the virtual systems will be running on this box. So you can see it as completely separate firewalls. And here we see and this ended with errors. That's not good. So let's finish and let's see if we are able to do it anyway. Let's try to install the default policy. I mean, I get a lot of issues in this VMware lab, and I'm getting a bit tired of it, so maybe I will just do this with real equipment instead. Because I have issues like pinging the gateways. I don't know why. I hope this one is actually working now, because I needed to change, well, VMnet, etc, etc. So instead of having VMnet 2, I changed this to VMnet 16, 19. Then it actually worked. So I had a lot of packet loss before, and I don't know why, but now I've changed this to VMnet 19 on both this cluster and these ones, and I'm actually able to push the policy now. So finally, it took me like, I don't know, 2 days to actually troubleshoot this. I have rebuilt the lab from scratch twice, both because of a disk crash, but also because of this VMware issue. So it's not 100% good to actually lab within VMware, at least not in VMware Workstation. In a real one, it's a lot better. So let's try here. So we have our VSX and we have our 2 gateways, and they are currently red, and they are red due to licenses. So let's try to push the policy. And as you know, or as you did see, the VSX actually create one new policy, and this is only for the VS0, so to say. And I will put log on all, so we can see all the traffic, and just publish. And then we will install the policy again, and hopefully this works without an issue. So we take this one, and it's installed on the Vsx cluster itself. Install and pray. And normally when it goes fast, it doesn't work. When it takes some time, it's better. So this looks better. Successful. Finally, we have a working Vsx. So it took a lot of time, and this will be green later. So I did wait a few minutes more, and now you can see that it's green here. So everything is working correctly. I had some major issues with my VMware workstation to actually get this up and running, so I needed to change from VMnet 2 to VMnet 19. So the topology looks like this now. So not VMnet 2 here. I don't know, something did interfere with VMnet 2. When I changed from VMnet 2 to VMnet 19, it worked again. So before I did have 79% packet drop, and that doesn't work. That's a horrible feeling when you have a packet drop within your virtual lab. This is just a cable. So this should work. And in the next video, we will, first of all, we will install 2 virtual systems, one in each domain. And we will also create this virtual switch. This is something that I have done in different videos if you already want to see how to do it. But the point of this lab exercise is actually to install the virtual switches and virtual systems before, and then try to change the internal communication network, and also try to change from HA to VSLS to see what happens when you have actually live traffic going through the box. So this is not a guide on how to install a Vsx system in production. This is a guide on how to lab with Vsx. I will make a real live I will make another video where I install a real production Vsx system based on open servers in Cisco ACI, and then you can see the full process on how I normally work. That will be a longer video. That will be a correct order video, but this is for labbing, and this is to learn things. And when you lab and learn things, you need to break things, and you need to do it in incorrect order to see what works. So I hope you did learn something from this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.